My name is Anya. For those of you who don't know me, I founded StrudelmediaLive, and we offer live online photography classes. And because of the craziness that's going on in the world right now, I wanted to help. And I thought, how can I help, and how can I help a New York City restaurant? My original idea was, okay, I want to help a New York City restaurant, but I also want to help essential workers. So I found this amazing organization that is called the Migrant Kitchen. And what they do is they cook for hospital workers here in New York City, and they deliver food to them. And they also cook for other people in need that are affected by COVID. And the Migrant Kitchen explores flavors from around the world and employs immigrants and refugees whose backgrounds inspire the cuisine. So that's who the Migrant Kitchen is. And so I want to welcome all of you and thank you for your contribution. I'm really touched that you all are here and are supporting this project. I want to also thank my volunteers who are helping in the background. I want to welcome Anita Pouchard Serra. She is the moderator today.
Thanks, Anja. Hi, everyone. I'm super happy to be here. I'm in Buenos Aires right now, but I used to go to New York and to work in the US. So it's a pleasure also to try to contribute with that kind of initiative to solidarity organization like the Migrant Kitchen. I will introduce Zahara. Anja, for the teachers, she asked us to have the possibility to invite someone, and I think about Zahara in 2 seconds, and I will say why, and why I think it's super interesting to have her today here. Zahara Gómez is a friend, it's a colleague, it's an inspiring woman. And I had the opportunity to work with her 2 years ago in Valparaiso during a festival. And I think we met there now. We met a little bit before, but we met because we wanted to meet. It was like, okay, we have so much things in common in the work, in our life. I mean, we have to do something together. And I really like when the life push you to contact and to meet people like Zahara. And what I especially appreciate in her work, it's because I think her work is more than images. I like what moves her. I like her restless spirit that is permanently questioning how and why we are producing images and stories. I like what there is behind these images, and it's a little bit the reason why I think it's important to listen to her and her project today. It's something for me, it's important to rethink permanently why we are working with images and how we act on the field with the community we are working with. And I think Sarah's last project has a little bit of all of these questions. So the idea is just to get inside her processes, and I will let her introduce a little bit the project. We also think that it was great to show you how her narrative changed along her field work, and I think it's really, really powerful to have access to this material. And after, yes, I prepare some question because also I know her, so I think there is some point that can be interesting to talk together today. And yes, feel free to put your question on the chat. And thanks to Jimena, I am really happy to see so many friends today. And thanks to Jimena, who will help us with the question. So yes, Zahara. Adelante.
Hi, thank you for the invitation to Anja and Anita. When Anita invited me to this talk, I think it was very interesting because it's for a restaurant and my project, it's about food. So it's a nice link. I work now for years on the question of enforced disappears in different places in Latin America, as Argentina and Chile and Guatemala and Colombia and Mexico. So I show you the beginning, I think 5 years ago, of all this work. So I beginning to work with the enforced disappearance in my university studies. And I work about how we can represent the enforced disappearance. And years after that, I went to Argentina and I met the forensic team. And I beginning to do these kind of things with bones and the landscape where they find these bones and all the tools who they use on the field. Okay, the desaparición forzada and enforced disappearance in English. It's a methodology of terror in all Latin America, beginning in Guatemala, maybe in the 50s. And after that, with all the dictatorial system in South America, we was in front of, I don't know, in Argentina, it's 30,000 disappearance during the dictatorship of Videla. I don't know the numbers in Chile, but with Pinochet, we have a lot of disappearance too. In Guatemala, I think it's 50,000. In Colombia, we don't know yet because they signed the peace a few years ago. So I beginning to work just on this topic. So I start with the forensic teams and all the work around the disappearance. And I live now in Mexico for 6 years. And in Mexico, we are in a moment when we have 60,000 disappearers. So I show you that just to show you the beginning of the process. And after that, I met a group of women who looking for their children or husband or brother in Los Mochis, Sinaloa, in the north of Mexico. And they go to the field 2 days in a week to find them or find the bones. So I start to work with them. So you see that's the second narrative of the project. And when I start to work with them, I have the feeling the documentary way is not enough to find a reason to continue to work in this topic. So as I spent more and more time with them and in their houses, and we share a lot of moments and silence and other things, not only the sadness and not only the drama. And I finally think about how we can talk about that with other ways and not just the drama and the heart of the subject. So we decided to make a book together with this group of women in a collaborative way, as a book of recipes that then can be used as such, a book of memories, a bridge that will connect realities. I think that's the real reason to, at the end, make a recipe book. So these women share with me the recipe of the memory of her son in this plate, or her husband or her brother.
So those are recipes that the mothers cooked for their sons, basically their favorite dishes. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. It's a way to try to talk about that and to share these stories and these memories, maybe with more light. And the end of 4 years of work about forensic and enforced disappeared.
So in each recipe, we have the name of the son, daughter. I mean, para Roberto, it's mean las recetas for Roberto.
Yeah, that's the name of the woman, the mom or the sister. That's the name of the recipe and the name for the person who make it, and the moment when he disappeared.
Well, what I see, it's super interesting to see the three different narratives. Also, how do you navigate from different kind of approaches? I mean, I follow the process. So the first one is much more conceptual and kind of artistic approach, and more darker, as you say. And after I feel that it's more a traditional documentary approach, where you have a community and you will follow them and take the pictures of what is happening in front of you. But I really wanted to hear a little bit more what happened between this second narrative and to have today this book. I mean, how the idea came to you. How do you propose this idea to the community? I mean, because sometimes we may have ideas, but the community is not so receptive. So I really wanted to hear a little bit more about this.
I think one of the moment between the second narrative and this cookbook, it was, I realized all these women talk about her drama in the same way every time when a journalist come and ask her to share her story. And I don't know, maybe one day when I stay in Mochis, I have this feeling like, wow, that's amazing, because it's like a movie, and again and again and again, and you talk in the same way, and you cry in the same moment. And I really felt that very hard. And at the same time, I don't know, it's just opened a door with a lot of questions, as why we make these images, who consume these images, what rests for the community. And I think it was that feeling, and at the same time, maybe to find a way to maybe feel more empathy with her. And I think when you read in the newspaper stories, okay, you can have the reflection like, oh, it's sad, or it's not good, blah, blah, blah. But you gone with your day, and it's okay. It's for that. But to find the food to make empathy with this subject and with these amazing women, and just maybe make a bridge and have the feeling it's not just their story, it's our story.
I have some question to push a little bit about your process, because I will also say maybe because Zahara and I were involved in a Latin American program, educational program called Proyecto Imaginario, and just 2 weeks ago we presented together our statement as photographer and human being. So it was a way also to know a little bit more about her process. So I use also this to imagine some questions today to know more about her process. Something you said, I remember, it's that photography as a unique tool is getting less and less interest for you. I mean, that you're a photographer, but you don't think photography it's only at the heart of your practice. So I would like to hear a little bit about how the place of images and making images maybe change in your process.
Yes, I think the photography just as a photography is not such interesting anymore. I think I grew up with these images, and the idea one photo can change the world. And I think it's a very 20th century idea. And I need to connect the image with another thing, maybe bigger. And in this case, the photography is just a tool. And that's great. It's just a tool. And maybe just find where's the link with other realities, and to use the photo for another goal than just to be photographer, or than just to have a beautiful picture, a powerful picture. Okay, and what else? So the idea of the artist or photographer alone in his bubble of creation, and I don't work anymore for me. I'm not interested in. And I really think we are connected with the real world. And if we're not, we need to do this connection.
I remember what you said when we talked 2 weeks ago. The fantasy to become a photographer, but I will try to translate it better, because in Spanish the word photographer can express the gender. So you wanted to be a male photographer when you started photography. I really loved when you shared this, because I felt the same. Maybe I never expressed it, but I think especially our generation, when we started, we wanted to be this male photographer. And how finally, if you can explain a little bit this idea, and what was your idea at this moment, and how does this change along your process? And I think especially it's really clear in the recipes for memory.
I studied history of art and history of photography at the university, and I grew up with the images of powerful photographers as Capa and Bresson and Depardon and blah, blah, blah. And the war photographer, I think that's the image. And the war photographer was a male photographer. And I think for me in that time, that was photography. Iconic images of powerful men with a strong idea of justice and equity and ego. And these guys built Magnum agency, and the most part of our 20th century visual knowledge. And that was my idea of what was the photography. This myth, and I think it's funny because is like the idea of the war conflict photojournalist as like the idea of the knight with his white horse and fight with prowess against dragons. I don't know, this kind of ideas. And at the end of my university studies, I beginning to work at Magnum agency in Paris, in the offices. And that's amazing. I learned a lot to have all these negatives of all these power photographers in my hands. And at the same time, of course, I stopped to make photography for years because it was just ridiculous to try to make some pictures when you have Kudelka all the time in face of your face, or Rabas, or I don't know. So, and I spent, I think, 3 years in Magnum. I don't know now, but that was more than 10 years ago. And in the Magnum offices, we are a lot of women, and really a lot of women. And the photographers are men, and the women in the office are women who work for the photography, so for these men. And so I think in one moment, I don't know, it was a shock for me. And I quit Magnum to be short for years. I didn't touch a camera with a professional conviction. I did other things. I continue with my politic activism. I spent a lot of time to make peace with that and to understand I didn't want to make this kind of pictures and noise pictures and powerful pictures with all the story in one image.
Another one, and I know it's from Victoria, who say hermosísimo trabajo, Zahara. And the question is, have you thought about what the act of cooking these recipes does? How that further pushes our process and understanding of feeling empathy? Also the way memory comes up with the mothers.
To cook and to eat, it's often, I don't know, a magic place to make present the person who is not here. And at the same time, maybe we can talk about him in other ways, like he like that, he don't like that. And he was very annoying when I was cooking because he loved these dishes, etc. So for me, it was to give a body to all this person, and not just he disappeared in this place and that's his work and blah blah blah.
Maybe now we can talk a little bit. There is as a question more regarding the book and how you transform this in a book. So do you use text to introduce this concept, or do you leave that for the viewer?
Okay, at the beginning, we have 3 beautiful texts by 3 amazing women. So the first one, it's from a culinary journalist who talk about Sinaloa and how is Sinaloa with the food. And the first text who talk about disappear is this one, and is a text from the group of women from Las Rastreadoras. So you have, I think, 4 or 5 recipes before that.
You were about to print the book, and with the COVID, you finally...
Yeah. So I hope at the end of June we will have it. So it's finished now. It was
But
In
how
fact,
did you make the process before this? Now you have the book ready to print, but the process, the design, how did you imagine?
okay, I think this project had something especially because a lot of people come with his knowledge to complete the possibility of the book. So Clarissa Moura make all the design. She's Argentinian in fact. She lives in Mexico. And Maria de Becky, she's from Hijos, Mexico, write a text for the book. So I really have the sensation it was very easy.
And I know for this project you have to connect with other institution or partner that they're not so common for photographer. I mean, many times
Yes.
we try to connect with institution for photography or for documentary project. But I know for this project you had the idea to connect with a Mexican famous chef and restaurant. Can you talk a little bit about this?
We needed money to make the project, and I started to think if we really make bridges with other realities and we really want to make a cookbook and a recipe book, we need maybe people from the gastronomy or cook persons who knows about that. So I met two chiefs in Mexico and I explained the project, and they made, I think, 2 dinners to raise money to print the book, really. So that was very nice and very strong to make this bridge. So now we think about maybe make a dinner with the recipes of the book with them.
You know, I could say I think it's a great idea for a project, but for the cook to have this book and be cooking from it must be painful. I mean, you're at home cooking from these recipes and then you realize what they are. It must really, you know, just a comment, not a question.
Great.
Yeah, what do you think about that, Zahara?
Yeah,
I mean,
what was the process with the mothers when they were cooking? How did they feel? How did they receive this idea to cook this recipe?
Each one in different way. There are women who spend a lot of time to make me to accept to do the cooking. Others no, they are very happy. Fina, for example, didn't cook the ceviche for 4 years. And I think it's great to just to put that on the table. And that's not only happy, but it's not only sad.
it was probably also therapeutic for them, like
Yes.
therapy in a way. Yeah.
I think not just for her, just for the society or for the community. It can be a way to take place in this topic.
What has been the reception for the project in the photography industry or with people, yes, from our industry? Because I understand that with the chef or with the human rights activists, the project was very well received. But I was wondering, when you explain this, when you explain your process, when you explain the idea, what was the answer to this, maybe with curator or editors or that kind of person?
I think it depends a lot of where you talk. If you talk with Latin American persons or no Latin Americans, because I think that Latin Americans, and you maybe told me that at the beginning of this talk, it's like for the Latin American, the unforced disappearance, it's very easy to understand. And maybe for European people or other places, it's more difficult to understand what is the scale of that. And depends of the curator. I don't know, Ivan Ruiz came to Los Mochis in my last travel. He's curator, and he was very interesting in, and I think I try to talk to other people who don't connect at all with that. Like, okay, great, thank you. So
yeah, they just see it like a little book of receipts.
Yes,
with nice pictures, nice light.
Of this nice woman in the north. I don't know, like.
That's interesting also because I feel your project and others are trying in a way to also challenge representation of violence in Latin America. And sometimes editors or mainstream media from the West are used to see images from Latin America with blood, with suffering. And with your project, we can talk about this, but with in another way. And I think it's maybe it could be harder for some, as you say, to understand this. But it's what I feel interesting from Latin America in these years now to try to propose other narrative about topic that concern us here. So
I think that's very, very important. I don't know if we if that's the good way, but when you have a foot in Europe and a foot in Latin America, and you know what I talk about, Anita, you know what is the view of the Latin America and Europe. You know, it's, I don't know, it's strange. It's a mix of colonialism and of the power, the poor people who cannot be great or be strong. And I think it's important to try to find other ways to count up about the violences. And yes.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful that you went through this whole process of starting out with the bones, you know, which is very dramatic, and we have seen that quite a bit in a certain way. And then you moved on to food. I mean, this is just such an amazing contrast, and I think that's what really makes the project so beautiful, that you were able to translate your ideas through this path and then end up at recipes and food and photograph and collaborate with these women and share, let them share, you know, these memories at the same time. So I think that's wonderful.
We have a webpage. The name is Recetario para la Memoria, and you can pre-order the book now. And I hope at the end of June we can send it, or we want to make up, I don't know what, in Mexico City, because we don't know now with the virus if we can meet with 20 persons or 5 or 50, I don't know, but we really want to make some encounter with few women of the Sinaloa and the chief and the book and all these.
Well, thank you to all of you for being here. And thank you to Anita and Zahara for presenting today.